Donny Gillson, welcome back to Nature of Reality Radio. Return guests on this show are a rarity because I often try to get different guests on all the time. But if anyone ever reaches out to me, I'm always willing to give them the chance to come on more than once. And you did reach out to me because you heard about what happened to me after you read my unfortunate Facebook post. And with that said, just give me a seconds here to talk about what's been going on the past few weeks, because I'm sure my audience may have been wondering what's been going on. This is actually my first show since May 20th when I interviewed David Morgan, the Silver Guru. I have been through a lot of hell recently. I did actually get 302'd by the police and an ambulance when I was walking down my local neighborhood street, and apparently some entities were toying with my mind. That it sure felt like something was toying with my mind and making me scream things against my will and do things against my will, and that did freak out the neighbors who called the police. Can't blame them, and I ended up spending 5 days in a hospital psych ward, and I was able to get out of that without having to talk to a judge. The psychiatrist decided that I was okay, and everything. I convinced them that I'm just going sane in a crazy world, and there's really no question that there are entities out there that can toy with people's minds, and I convinced them that I know what I'm talking about. And other than that, I've also had some issues with storms in this area that shut out the power for 3 days that caused me to have to cancel an interview. And I even had a guest on that I wanted to talk about the afterlife and other things, but the guest was under the impression that I was only going to talk about the afterlife and keep it up to an hour interview, but it ended up being longer than that, and I made a whole artistic thing out of it using her website as a guide. And after this show, she contacted me and was like, sorry to waste your time and all, but I don't really want that interview uploaded because I thought it was only going to be about the afterlife, and I don't really feel comfortable people hearing about all that other stuff that I'm not really an expert in, so could you please not upload the interview? And I was thinking, you gotta be kidding me. Well, she wouldn't do that unless she had a fear of what other people think, and well, she said that it wasn't that, but I can't imagine why else she would have insisted that I not upload the interview, because she didn't really feel comfortable having people hear the other stuff that she did not know I was intending to talk about. So after all that time and all that trouble, I finally get to be doing a radio show again for the first time since the Silver Gate. Interesting how I interviewed David Morgan, the Silver Guru, just 2 days before the 522 Silver Gate, which is some sort of a galactic alignment those familiar with Lisa Renee's work may know about. There's also going to be a Golden Gate in December, and I can't help but wonder, maybe that's when we'll have the RV Global Currency Reset NORR gold back currency set in place. That's maybe wishful thinking. We've been hearing about that for years, and it hasn't manifested. But it's very possible. And the Golden Gate and the Silver Gate do happen every year, but it's not set in stone. It has to do with the dates. It's galactic alignment. It just so happens that May 22nd, and I think around the December solstice, Christmas time is when it is. It's going to be this year. So I just thought I'd throw that all out and everything. But I am back, and Donny Gillson, you are back. So I'm sure you have a lot of things that you want to talk about, and you know how I feel. Well, I know how you feel. You know how I feel about the whole 302 thing, because you did on the first show talk about how they did that to you, and if there was any other times that happened since then, that specific incident where you talked about with me, then well, I guess I'll give you the chance to talk about it now. But you have your things you want to discuss, so you've got the floor. I will shut up and put myself on mute, and you can talk as long as you need.
No, thank you. Appreciate it. It's good to be back on the air. This is Donny Gillson. I used to do a show called 32 Degrees of Insanity on the Truth Frequency Radio Network and also Revolution Radio. I kind of took a break. I think the last real interview that I ever did was with you. And that was when I was dealing with death threats when I was on the air at K Beach and down in Cal State Long Beach. And finally, since then, I've graduated with a degree in sociology and psychology, and now heading towards grad school for information technology in my master's degree at California State University. I'm very excited about it, but as we all know, with COVID-19, the universities are shut down, so it's all going to be online the first semester. So that should be interesting, but looking forward to finally getting my graduate degree, something I've been wanting to do for a long time. And it helps with the credentials as I think about coming back on the air to reboot 32 Degrees of Insanity. As I've said, one of the main things that I talked about on 32 Degrees of Insanity was Nibiru coming? What was the Planet X? Is there a binary system out there? Is Zachariah Stitchin a psychological operation created by the CIA? You know, everybody wants to talk about the Freemasons. I'm a 32nd degree Freemason and a Knights Templar, and have been very an advocate of sorts to debunk some of the myths that are surrounding Freemasonry over the years. And now that we are in a different place and a different time, this is going to be an interesting thing here with COVID-19. And I think this is going to bring us into what we call the New World Order. And we've been talking about this for a long time. But the one thing that I do not agree with, and one of the things I'd like to talk about is how Alex Jones is going, that this COVID-19 is a hoax, that nobody gets it, and blah, blah, blah. Same thing he said with Ebola. I think is very dangerous what he's talking about. I am a full believer of COVID-19. I know somebody that had it. I think I even had it myself in December. I got very, very sick. I had a temperature of about 102. I was down for the count for about, I'd say almost a month. And then I went into a program myself to deal with some military issues. I went into a PTSD program for about 10 weeks with the Veterans Administration, and got out of there March 28th. But yeah, Andrew, I've been through a lot of the same things that you were. I believe that there are dark entities, the archons that attach to us. I believe that, we as people that look beyond the veil, that look beyond the dimensions that we are in, I believe that, where was I going with this? I believe that, that we have a spiritual movement going on right now, and it seems like a division of the good versus evil. But me and Alfred Weber have always been an advocate to making sure that we all understand that we are still on a positive timeline, and that if we can keep our energies on the positive, we are heading that way, and that possibly, just possibly, this pandemic that came out, I believe, this is my theory of the pandemic, that COVID-19 was engineered and sent out into the world. Now, was it done by the United States or was it done by China? Could be both. However, I don't think that they planned on what was going to happen. I think they had their simulations had a different outcome. We as a people have developed actions and behaviors that created the crisis that we are in now. However, as we know that the economy itself is doing fairly well, the unemployment rates, are very high, but some of these people are making more on unemployment than they have in years. And then we have this uprising back in Minneapolis and St. Paul, where I'm from, where it all started for me. All of this esoteric knowledge, all of this conspiracy theory, all of this deep understanding within my own brain of the spirituality of this world. And I believe that this world needs to get a grip. We need to better understand how we can move forward in this world, because the one thing that I believe is that in 2025, we are looking at possibly a binary system coming in, which is, I think, is one of the reasons why we are having some of the earthquakes and major storms that we are having, and some of the biblical stuff that is happening around us is because we are getting pulled into this reality. And I believe the second system, the binary system itself, is a dimensional aspect that we will see that will manifest itself and we won't even notice it as it basically appears in front of us. I believe that's going to happen right around 2025. But that's what I got for right now.
Thank you. And with that said, I also want to point out that my channel has been demonetized because I used the dreaded CV word a few times. It's interesting, in my interview with David Morgan, at the very end of that interview, I did use the word. I was like, oh my God, I just said that word. They're probably going to demonetize my channel and whatnot. And I thought that, and well, I actually, my channel, they sent a message saying your interview with David Morgan has been approved for monetization. I was like, what's going on here? I thought you guys are gonna demonetize any video that uses the CV word. Well, apparently they were trying to screw with me, because the next thing I know, I get a message saying that my channel has been demonetized and I have to wait 30 days to for it to upload again. I'm gonna try to compensate for this by also uploading my videos to the cause.tv
Yeah.
channel, which is where Benjamin Fulford has been uploading his
Oh, good
interviews.
old Ben.
Yeah, well, okay, I'm going to bring him up a few times too, and since I brought him up, I might as well get right into it. I did actually have a chance to interview Leo Zagami, and
Oh, you did you?
yeah, I did, and it was a fascinating interview, and there were a lot of things we discussed there. He seems to be on Alex Jones's side now, and regarding what you said about Alex Jones and the virus, I think he may have been suckered into what David Icke said, because David Icke, David Icke, he sees a conspiracy in everything. It's the way his
Yeah.
brain is
And
wired, and
everything.
he
Yeah.
and he thought that the virus is just a genetic material that people are testing for, and that apparently is not really the case. And Alex Jones, for whatever the reason, decided to give Icke the benefit of the doubt on that, and well, that's not really what's going on. There really is a CV, but in
Yeah.
regards to Leo Zagami, I spoke to him about a few things and about Benjamin Fulford, and Leo Zagami did say that he thinks Fulford has been suckered too much by agents in
Yep.
China, and I did actually have Benjamin Fulford on my show too, and Benjamin
All right.
Fulford, he came out and he said a few things about Leo, and among other things, he said, Leo Zagami helped stage Fukushima. I have proof. I don't know if you want to say anything about that, but that is on the record, so I'm not doing any harm saying that. And well, now that I've said that, why
Well,
don't we start with that, and then I'll say a few other things about my interview with Leo that I think you'll find interesting.
sure. Well, as we all know, Leo Zagami is a 33rd degree Freemason and also a 98th degree Freemason in the Memphis Mesrim. And Leo and I have been friends, gosh, Jiminy Crickets. We've been friends probably back to 2009 or so. Leo moved down to Long Beach with his wife, or with his girlfriend, and got married when he was arrived in Long Beach. And Leo and I hung out a lot, and we created the Masonic Lodge, the anti-NWO Masonic Lodge, against the NWO Freemasons and the government. We want to work, as we've always said, in the positive timeline. However, I'm a little upset with Leo Zagami, I have to admit. I believe that when I had my breakdown, when I was admitted by the state of Minnesota for conspiracy theory, where they tried to keep me for a while, and when we had habeas corpus, and not Alex Jones, but Alfred Weber and Chris Gio and several others did very well in getting me out of there. I remember doing my interview with Alfred Weber while I was in the actual hospital, and it was a very strange time. But after that, Leo kind of became very distant from me as a Masonic brother. And I've heard some very interesting things. When I saw him going towards Alex Jones and promoting his book called the Confessions of the Illuminati, which I was featured in one of the chapters of his book, Volume 2. And also, Leo has interesting ideas, and he is very well knowledged in Masonic knowledge. He's very well knowledged in government. He is also something makes me wonder why Leo ended up in Long Beach with me. while I was doing 32 Degrees of Insanity. We were doing it from his house for a while there, where he was doing my co-host, and he was in for Ben Harmer, and Leo. I don't know what I could say about Leo. I don't want to say anything bad about him because I still love the guy, but I also believe that he might be extending the truth a little bit to create a little bit of fear. And I think Benjamin Fulford himself, the White Hat Society and such, Leo and Ben were very close friends at one time. They were very, very, very close friends. And there is a division between the two because they both have different ideals and different ways that they see the world going. Now, I remember when Leo at one point felt that he was Jesus Christ himself. And that has kind of changed over the years. But I've watched Leo and I've watched Benjamin, and I believe that these guys do have some inside knowledge to what's going on in the government and what's going on in the world. However, a lot of their predictions have not come true.
Right, and another thing that I discussed with Leo that I was really glad that I got to discuss with him, because been chomping at the bit to have the chance to talk with him about this. The whole thing about whether or not Zecharia Sitchin's work can be trusted or not, and the whole fact that so many people can't agree or disagree on whether or not he's accurate because so many things have been said about who he was and who he wasn't. And I did address that with Leo, and I told him that when I heard Akashic Records reader Andrew Bartzis assert that Sitchin's first 3 books are very accurate, I was like caught off guard because I remembered Leo saying that Sitchin was an Illuminati disinformer who got assistance from the Vatican and the Zionists. And Leo, in my interview with him, after I told him that, he was kind of hinting that, okay, maybe I should have been a little more clear on that. Rather than making it seem like Sitchin was an agent of the Illuminati, what I probably should have said was Sitchin was compromised by the Illuminati, and then he got into the evidence for that, and that kind of led me to believe that maybe, okay, the Illuminati, after Sitchin wrote his first 3 books, they saw him as a threat because he was revealing a lot of things about humanity's past that they didn't want people to know about, so they compromised him by feeding him disinfo. And from maybe his 4th book onward, and I've got a lot of people who say Sitchin's 4th book onward, you can't read those books without falling asleep. There's a lot of stuff in there that you have to think that you don't really know if this is believable, and maybe the fact that he was compromised, if Leo was right, could have something to do with that. So do you have anything to say about that?
Well, an interview that I did with Alfred Weber many years ago, we declared that Alfred Weber, or that Zecharia Sitchin was an actual psyop, and that his work was based to create fear. And there is another, I forget the name because it's been a while, but out of South America, out of Brazil, there's another interesting individual that talks about Herculobus, and Herculobus as wormwood, and wormwood that is said in the Bible. And Leo is an advocate for that. We are currently, let's see here. What year are we? 2020. So we said in 2012, 2013, we said that we were finally into the 7 years of tribulation. So if that was true, then the 2020 was the end of tribulation, and now we are entering into the possible return of Christ. Now, is that entity or that energy going to be Christ? I don't know. But it's definitely going to reach out, I believe, whatever it's going to be, and touch this earth to change it for the better. And I believe that's one of the things that Leo and I really agree on fundamentally.
All right, and you this whole idea of like another star, another planet, and Bartz is the Akashic Records reader. He says there's 66 planets in our solar system. John Lear, in my interview with him, said there's 40. Of course, NASA can't agree, and mainstream science can't agree on a universal definition of a planet. So I don't know if they're really debating what a planet is and what it isn't.
Or if there's any planets at all.
Right. But in regards to whenever I use the word Nibiru, I only use that term to refer to the planet in a 3,600-year elliptical orbit that Zecharia Sitchin glorified in his book, The 12th Planet. A lot of people have used that term in other ways that's confused the issue. But other terms like wormwood and Herculumbus, I believe you said is the term.
Herculobus.
Yes.
Herculobus.
Yeah, this is like where exactly in what works do you see those terms and those words, those planets, and how can you make sense of what they are? For those that are really confused about this, can you maybe try to deconfuse the issue?
Well, here's the thing. In 2012, we had saw on Soho. It was right around December. I want to say it was like December 12th or so. We saw a large object heading towards the sun. There was also a video, and a lot of people said it was a weather balloon or whatever it was, but it did appear in the sky, and it looked like a planet that exploded similar to the Death Star. I don't remember if you remember that. It was about in 2012, and it looked like something exploded in the air. Well, I believe, this is what I believe. I believe that Nibiru wasn't a planet at all, that it was a ship, okay? Following that would be Herculobus, which is wormwood. Now, Nibiru itself could be the Anunnaki. That was their ship. That's how they were coming back. Now, there's interesting footage that has currently come out of police officers that are well over 7 to 8 feet tall, and they have to weigh at least 400 pounds. I don't know if you've seen these individuals, but they are absolutely crazy looking, and they mean business. They were all in their get-ups and all of that, but when I saw these individuals, I only saw the back of them, but when I saw these individuals, I was like, these could be possible Anunnaki. Now, if the Anunnaki are very similar to us, but very big, now they also say that the Andromedans have come from that area or are very tall as well. But what I saw here was thickness and, almost monstrous in a way. And I think if we're looking at the Anunnakis that would be contributed to Nibiru, that these would be the type of individuals that are talked about in Genesis. These are the individuals that, basically started this planet, started the human race. We were seeded here. We are aliens themselves. Right now, we are aliens. We are a hybrid of an alien. We weren't just, created by Adam and Eve. No, I do not believe that whatsoever. I believe that Adam is an atom, and Eve would be the positive and the negative to life, to spirituality, the yin and the yang. Christ himself could have been Buddha, could have been reincarnations of different things, could be an Anunnaki himself. Who knows? But all I know is that Nibiru is not a planet, spaceship, destroyed in December, just like we said it was going to be. And then now we have some knowledge from the U.S. Air Force of controlling the weather by 2025 because this planet is coming in, this binary star is coming in.
All right, and when it comes to giving dates, a lot of people don't want to give dates because a lot of egg in their face.
Oh yeah,
However,
no, I won't. I don't give any dates. What I'm saying is 2025. We do have documents. We have classified information that I can send you, and I would love to send it to you. It talks about the modification of the weather. Now, interestingly enough, inside there, it does also talk about a binary system that by controlling the weather and controlling what's going on the Earth, that we can balance any type of other type of object that's coming into our solar system. Now, that is possible. Now, could we turn Earth into a spaceship itself? I don't know. Elon Musk just came out with we have to build a spaceship so that we have, this huge docking spaceship so that we have different islands just to get us to Mars. Now, I am almost to the point now where I'm not even believing in space, but I'm believing that this reality that we're in is that it's just X's and O's, man. This stuff is this reality that we live in is not really a reality. We live in a simulation. That's what I believe we do. And all of this stuff, everything we talk about is myth and bullshit.
yes, and I can tell you that I had the opportunity to debate Flat Earth poster boy Santos Bonacci about the Flat Earth theory. That's going to open up a whole new can of worms, but I don't even want to go there.
Started on the Flat Earth.
Oh, okay, I'm not going to go there, but yes, about the 2025. Interesting you mentioned that date. The one date that I'm really looking forward to April 8th, 2024. That will be the day
Mm-hmm.
after my 38th birthday. I plan on being in Carbondale, Illinois that day to see the what that city, Carbondale, Illinois, is the crisscross point for the path of the eclipse that we saw in 2017, and the solar eclipse that's going to be moving in the opposite direction across America, forming like the X shape of those two eclipses in Carbondale, Illinois, where the X's cross. It'll be on April 8th, 2024. That eclipse, it's been said, is supposed to signal the end of the Roman Empire, the modern era that is the United States of America, which kind of makes sense considering that's also around the same time period that the Pluto in Capricorn cycle is supposed to end, which is supposed to signify the end of almost everything that's not in humanity's best interest. So, of course, when you talk about an ebb and flow, it's not the when, it's the what. But when
Right.
you got these dates and see the astrology, you have to think significant things. It's almost a guarantee that they're going to happen at this point. And okay, if we're going to see the end of the Roman Empire, the modern era that is America in 2024, well, that's great, but does that mean that, and also the end of the Illuminati? Brad Johnson, who channels Adronis, he's made it clear that there won't be any more Illuminati influence on planet Earth after that point. Okay, but is there still going to be Archon influence? Because not all, the Illuminati is part of the Archon control
Correct.
system, and is the Archon control system going to still be around after 2024 and influence our reality in unpleasant ways? And well, how much longer is that going to last? Is a question. And Brad Johnson did give 2037 as a very significant date in regards to like 3 days of darkness, he says. And
Yeah.
interesting how that's going to be right after, not too long after the Apophis asteroid is said to hit the Earth if it passes through that infamous keyhole on Friday the 13th
Right.
in 2029. So I've given this info out. Do you have anything to say about these dates and what's supposed to happen regarding the fall of the evil forces?
Well, it's interesting that that we are preparing for. We've created this space force. Whenever I say that word, I just can't. I just have to laugh. However, we are preparing ourselves for some sort of inbound object. We have to figure it out. If this thing gets too close for impact, if we split it apart, it still could impact. If it sweeps by, they said that the meteor that hit Russia, remember the one that plowed down all the trees in the early 1900s? What was that called in Russia?
Tunguska.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
What
Tunguska.
was it called?
Tunguska.
Yeah, Tunguska. Thank you. Gosh, I couldn't. I was on the top of my tongue. Anyways, they say that it never even impacted. That it was a flyover, and that's what created. I mean, just a flyover. So I can't. If this asteroid is supposed to skim the Earth. Is that correct? Is that what I hear? Or a direct impact?
The the Apophis asteroid is supposed to on Friday, April 13th, 2029. It's supposed to go by the Earth, and if it passes through a gravitational keyhole, then it will come back in 2036 and hit the Earth. If it doesn't pass through the keyhole, then it's not going to hit the Earth. Now, one thing that really bothers me about this is that, I mean, they say if you blow up an asteroid, that's the worst thing you can do to it because it's just going to break it up and many pieces are going to hit the Earth. However, if you know the asteroid is far away from the Earth and it's many, many years before it's going to hit the Earth, I think there's nothing wrong with blowing the asteroid up because over the course of time,
Right.
all the pieces would dissipate and you don't have to worry about it. And of course, anybody who's seen the Death Ray Direct Energy Weapon episode of Conspiracy Theory with Jesse Ventura would know that we have Death Ray technology, which could easily dustify an asteroid, which raises the question, why should we worry about this asteroid when we've got forces out there that can dustify it? So kind of makes you think, okay, we're not going to justify, we're just going to play along here and see if it passes through the keyhole. Well, if it passes through the keyhole, then maybe we can dustify it because then it's not going to be able to come back and hit us in 2036.
Right.
But it's just interesting that that's supposed to if it does hit us in 2036, that's supposed to be shortly before the 3 days of darkness that Brad Johnson, who channels Adronis, talked about. And he says that there's some guy who researched the pyramid code has validated the 2037 date through some code in the Great Pyramid as being a significant date in regards to Earth going through some sort of ascension.
Change. Yeah,
So,
ascension. Yeah, and I believe that. I believe we are. I mean, we are at this very start of this ascension right now. This CV that we are going through, this pandemic, this is just another rise to the level of spirituality. You could feel the difference. Can you feel it? I mean, can you feel more of the positive energy with
I
this?
can
Even
indeed.
though there's a little, you can, right?
Yes.
It's like, everybody here, at least in the United States, and I mean, we're kind of pulling together, and we are being respectful of one another. Which, but I mean, I was just down in Los Angeles, and I was just down in Long Beach and San Diego, and I was just blown away when I went into Hollywood. And Hollywood's been kind of my area since I was a young child. And every single store, including the Hollywood Wax Museum, the Hollywood theaters, the Kodak Theater, all of it was shut down and boarded up. Same thing in downtown Los Angeles. It was like a ghost town. San Diego was weird too, but everybody was at the beach. It was crazy because everybody's not working, because we've lost so many jobs. People are going to have to reinvent themselves. But the nice thing about reinvention is an ascension in your mind. And maybe this is the push we all needed to really work for the betterment of this world. Because if we don't, we got to remember that God is in charge. The scientific theory and all that, that's great. But there's always one more variable, and that's God. God is in charge. We have to remember that, and we have to have faith and grace in that there is some sort of positiveness that is looking out for us. And that, when you talk about this asteroid, and you talk about 2037 and all these different dates, well, we've been talking about Armageddon since the dawn of time. Could Revelations been 1,000 years ago? That's possible. People have said that it could have been, the Black Plague could have been, what they were talking about in Armageddon. But we've lived through plagues. We have lived through destruction. We have lived through everything. And we have prevailed as a human race. So I believe that this is going to be something that's going to ascend us into a better life. However, if we go down a different road, it could become a police state, which, remember in Star Trek, they actually talked about 2020 being the rise of the police state. I don't know if you remember that. But yeah, in Star Trek itself, they had talked, they went back in history and they talked how 2020 was the rise of the police state, which I find very interesting with this CV. We're seeing, a major militarization of the police force. But I think that the police force, coming from a cop's family, I don't think that we should be militarized. I mean, they're not militarized in the UK. They don't even carry guns in the UK. I don't think that, maybe if we swept the guns away from all the cops, maybe we wouldn't have these, major murders and stuff. That throws the whole consciousness off, because the collective conscious itself has to work together for us to survive.
Indeed, it does. And regarding whether this is going to be a positive or negative timeline, there's a couple things to say about that. David Icke did point out that he thinks 2030 will be a singularity date of sorts, where man and machines will basically merge. It's interesting how the Terminator movies, 2029 is the year that the Terminator went back to 1984 to kill Sarah Connor. Of course, those movies were based on a negative timeline, so when the machines took over around 2029, 2030. David Icke, I presume, thinks more of a positive timeline. David Icke did actually say in his 2012 October talk, which I was at live, I got to see live in London, he said he expects the ascension love energy will keep increasing and increasing and increasing, and it won't stop increasing. And it makes me wonder, if he believes that, why does he insist on talking about negative stuff all the time? Well, he's got his own agenda. But other than that, but interesting. Yeah, I guess he believes if it bleeds, it leads, and he wants the publicity. But anyhow, like Alex Jones does. But anyhow, in addition to that, Alex Collier did make a very, very interesting statement in an interview that he did on the Goldfish Report interview, where he said that the Draco reptilian overlords uh, have
Mhm.
left, which means that the powers that be that are still on Earth, they don't have the luxury of having the Draco overlords coming to save them and saying, we're going to murder you if you try to throw a monkey wrench into our agenda. Well, that's not going to happen because the overlords, he says, are gone, and we can thank our
Right.
space brothers for that to a great degree. But well, that's all well and good, but here on Earth, are humans so apathetic and so couch potato like that we're not going to do anything to try to speed up the ascension as quickly as possible? So, and if we do speed up the ascension, like, I mean, what can we expect like around 2030? I've heard a lot of debates. Some people say they don't really want it to be a machine world. They'd rather have humans be one with nature. Well, I love being one with nature, but I can't see myself living without a single microchip. And I don't mean that in the evil microchip way. I mean that in the using computers, like in Star Wars. Never underestimate the power of a droid. Droids are your friends. Why you can certainly get along with nature. You can get along with droids too. So why can't we like have both? And well, I'm babbling a lot here, but in regards to the overlords being gone and what humanity can do about it, and do you actually think humanity is going to get past its apathy and its couch potatoism and do something? Do you see anything about that?
Well, this is interesting because now we can go back into the possible reason why we have been the shelter in place, try to avoid crowds and such. Because I think what the government itself is doing, they know that we are all ascending as one. So how do we get them to not be together? Well, let's put them inside their house. And so during that time, we became, everybody became, what did we do? We ate, watched Netflix, we sat around, we didn't do anything. We weren't thinking, we were thinking aimlessly, like, okay, when are we going to get out of this? And now, we're living in a new world. We have to, we still have to be conscious of social atmospheres, so if we're taking away the social aspect, which, human nature needs, how do we ascend? I know that, what really bothers me about this all is the children. They're being robbed of their social well-being. What will they turn into, these pandemic children? How will they think? What will they do? Because they're living in a world, and we are never going to change this world. I was watching some interesting history on pandemics. There have been some pandemics that have lasted 300 years. If they think that they're going to get some sort of vaccine by October or something to that nature, well, then we know it's all bullshit. That this is all a orchestrated event, false flag, whatever. But if we continue the coronavirus, we have some sort of herd mentality or herd immunity, that I think is what's going to happen. Is everybody in this world, I'd say 70 to 80% are going to get this CV. They're going to. It's just going to happen. Now, if your immune system can't fight it off, that's on you. You've got to figure out how you're going to fight this thing, because it's an enemy against you. It's a virus that will take you out. And whatever I had this last December, I thought for sure I was going to die. I could not breathe. I had this phlegm in my trachea. I remember when I finally coughed it out, it was like this green blob. It was so gross. And it wasn't the flu. No way. I was diagnosed with upper respiratory infection and pneumonia. Well, that's what they say COVID is. So did I have a different strain of COVID? And then also it mutated into what that's causing right now? That could be. Now we have the Georgia Guidestones that say in 500 million people, or 500 million, right? 500 million people on the earth, and that's it. Well, if this COVID-19, we have a second wave, and that second wave just peaks up, we could lose so many people on this earth. And we could get down to that 500 million. We could be down to that area. Now, is that fair? It's not me to judge. Hopefully I'll make it. Hopefully you'll make it. But we don't know. We don't know what tomorrow brings, but we need to live day by day, hour by hour, minute by minute, and just remember that we love one another. And I believe that, and this is me, I don't know what your religious beliefs are, but I believe that the Lord Jesus Christ protects me. And whatever your God is, whatever you believe, I believe that your God will protect you. You have to have faith in that. And, another thing, smoke a lot of pot, people. That's another thing that I agree with, is that I believe that that cannabis has a lot to do with keeping that COVID out of your system, or at least healing you from whatever it is that you're having in your system. Cannabis is very important, especially CBD. But, this is a different world that we're in. The last time you interviewed me, it was a different world. I'm a different person. You're a different person. Everybody is different, and they've grown. But we know that we're on a positive timeline. We know that we are going to win this war. These archons, fuck them. Sorry, excuse my language, but F them. We can win. We can fight these things. These archons, they're not archons, they're demons. They will try to latch on to you. They will try to bring you down. But just have faith in yourself. Stand tall. You'll get through it. You got through what you did. I got through what I did. Hell, I went into a psych ward for a month, and then I come out and I'm going back to school and finishing a degree. Tenacity. I got it. You got it. We're back. We're talking about very interesting subjects that we need to talk about. But is that all myth? Is that all bullshit? I don't know. But all I know is I'm living day by day, minute by minute, and hour by hour, and I'm having fun doing it. I just got engaged. I love a woman, so that is huge for me. And I just look at the world so much differently than I did 4 or 5 years ago. And a lot of people have watched me on Facebook. I've been pretty silent on things, just because I like to more observe now. I like to see what we have talked about over the years and how those things are manifesting themselves. We knew that years ago that, that the only way to the New World Order is going to be through a revolution of some sort. We saw that. We just saw this whole Black Lives Matter. We saw this, these riots. We saw the pushback by the government. They want to see this was a dress rehearsal for what is coming next. And what is coming next could be bad, could be good.
Well, let me chime in on that. It's been said that while all this CV stuff is going on, behind the scenes, there's a lot of things being done to shut down the bad guys. First of all, they said that there was a operation to shut down many of the underground bases and tunnel systems where the children that were being sacrificed are being taken out. And of course, all the people that this thing that's been driving people crazy for years about the global currency reset, NORR RV, where we're going to switch to a gold-backed currency that has money with intrinsic value, which should maybe after 10 to 15 years we can transition to a society of no money at all. That's also something that's supposed to happen. Of course, Donald Trump did merge the Federal Reserve and the Treasury into one, and that seems to be a good thing. I hope so.
Digital currency, the United States is in the process right now of digital currency. One of the biggest ones that's out there right now is a digital currency called ALM that's actually being used right now with all of the it's pretty much a direct transfer on all shipping. So say a export is coming in from China into the United States, originally what you would have to do is you would get a manifest, you get the bill, and then we would wire transfer the money. The United States would wire transfer the money needed to pay for that particular delivery. Now, with this new ALM digital currency that they're using, it's an automatic instant transfer, and it's a secured transfer. It's biotech transfer. It's using everything that the securities, but it's called the Securities Administration, right? For the stock market. What is it?
Securities and Exchange Commission.
Security and Exchange. Thank you. Security and Exchange Commission. They are, the ones that are, set the rules and everything. So the ALM, I think that is going to be an interesting thing. I think that digital currency is going to go, because we're going to get to the point where I also believe that we're going to have universal income. That is coming. I think universal income is coming. Probably I talked about that years ago. I said, I think everybody in the world should get a birth income. You were, here in the United States, if you're born, you get $24,000 a year base pay just for living. And that would give you money for food, shelter, and all of the main things that Maslow's hierarchy of needs are needed, so that you can get to that point of self-actualization, so we can get to that point of ascension, so we can get to that point to be in touch with God again. We can open our pineal glands. We can get that freaking condensation off, so that we can actually be in communication, telepathy, the whole 9 yards. What you were experiencing, exactly what I experienced. It seemed like something took over my body. And that is the archons that took over. They took you over because you allowed them in, and you allowed yourself to go down that path. But it's fine. You have to go down that path to experience it, because once you experience it, you learn from it. Did you not learn from it? You did.
Yes, I did. And Daniel Teague detected a Vega Star Healings. I asked him to scan me. He did detect a demonic cord on me after that experience. So I think that may have something to do with it.
Sure. No, and that's what I know exactly. There was a point in time when I remember, the time when I got tased down by the St. Paul Police Department. Back in 2011, May 28th, 2011, right after the so-called rapture took place. But that whole experience that I went through, I was completely out of my mind. I didn't understand what was going on. Something was happening in my mind that changed me from Donnie to whatever it was. And of course, I had to go in. And then once I got in, I turned around, and when you're starting to talk with the doctors, and the doctors are going, "Why are you here?" And I'm like, I don't know. You have these flitzes. It's almost like a glitch in the matrix, and it affects you in so many different ways, because it could be all your dimensions coming into each other, forming within each other, and that's what's making you a little loopy. But you break through it, you learn from it, and you move on. You have to live. I have gone through, you said earlier, you mentioned suicide. I have experienced, recently a friend of mine blew his head off with a gun. An old friend that I've known since I was a kid, and he was a psychiatrist with the VA. But he had his own problems. I had another friend that hung himself. I myself have tried and did not succeed, but I have done that myself. There has been times in my life where I have felt that I just don't want to be here anymore. But now, with this pandemic and as I grow older, there is something I can contribute to this world. And that's why I sit back, but yet I still am here. I want to contribute. I want to add a positive aspect to it. Yeah, I've had my negative problems. I've had my breakdowns. I've had this and that, but it was all worth it, because now I have the strength and energy to help others, to push through, because this is going to happen. Not only to you did it happen, but it's going to happen to a lot more people as we ascend to a higher level.
Yes, and I'd like to talk for a moment, switching gears, about Donald Trump and whether or not he's a fraud or whether or not he wants to help us. It seems like,
Uh-huh.
from everything I've seen, Donald Trump, the man, aspires to become what JFK wanted to be before he had his head blown off. However,
Right.
Donald Trump is not free from manipulation. It was brought to my attention at a conference that I was at that back in 2017, when Donald Trump had that infamous meeting with Henry Kissinger, the reason he had that meeting was so Kissinger could tell Donald Trump, "You will do what my minions and I tell you to do, or else you and your family will be dead." And it's also said that Benjamin Netanyahu, who by the way graduated from Cheltenham High School, which is a 20-minute drive from my house. I'd love to go to that school and
Yeah.
ask them if they bred and groomed him for his uh, tenure as the Israeli prime minister, and also the wizard behind the curtain that masquerades as a partial American president. But he's also holding Trump's leash to a great extent, as is Kissinger, which raises the question. How can we be sure that Donald Trump isn't going to screw us over in the event that he gets threatened by Kissinger, the Emperor Palpatine of planet Earth, or Benjamin Netanyahu, or any of the other Zionist factions that are holding his leash?
Well, this is, before Donald Trump won the presidency, and I knew he was going to win. There was a article in the Scientific Journal, and they were talking. They were talking about Donald Trump, and they were, everybody believes that Donald Trump is some sort of narcissist. That he is in it for him and not for us. And a lot of psychiatrists disagree with that. That he is not a narcissist, but what he is pursuing is glory. So that's huge. To pursue glory, that means you have gotten to the self-actualization you have produced. And I believe, and I'm not a huge Trump guy, even though I loved him when he was on The Celebrity Apprentice. I did like him then. But I'm not a huge Trump guy, but I do believe that he is trying to move us in the right direction. Now, behind the curtains, what's going on? Again, you don't know. But I believe that Donald Trump, hopefully, is steering things in the right way. But yeah, he's president. I remember, one Bill Cooper had said one time that a president would go into this room, and it was all black, and there'd be three men sitting at a table, and a big screen behind him, and basically they would show another footage from the JFK assassination. And that would show that, basically that we were behind the assassination of JFK. And these three men would turn to the President of the United States and state, any questions? That, yes, if you screw up, if you F up, if you don't follow the rules, and if you don't follow the game plan, you are in danger of losing your life. That is something that JFK wanted to do. He wanted to, Eisenhower, he actually warned us about the military-industrial complex. Now JFK was concerned about the Illuminati, was concerned about the New World Order, was concerned about alien technology and being used against us, the United States. But what I saw in this particular pandemic, when we brought the National Guard in, I think Donald Trump thought that the National Guard is going to be tough. It's going to come in like the military and, show these people. But what did they do? They sat there and they worked with the people. They talked and they communicated. It wasn't some sort of war. It wasn't some sort of military action. Yeah, they came in strong, but people respected the National Guard over the police. It was almost interesting to watch the sociological aspect of how people interacted with the National Guard versus the police. Donald Trump has got some interesting ideas. The infamous interview with him on, Alex Jones, which was, I thought, interesting. But he himself, as a man, I think he's going in the right direction. But he himself, as a president, I think he's under wraps.
Yeah, and what about Vladimir Putin? It's interesting that after Pu-
Vladimir,
but Putin
where
gave
is
us
he?
well, okay, well let me chime in here. Putin he gave Edward Snowden asylum, and then he actually said told Edward Snowden, please do not say anything bad about the United States while I'm giving you asylum. And I heard that. I'm like, you got to be kidding me, Vladimir. You make a living out of using RT to make the United States government look bad all the time. Why the hell would you all of a
Right.
sudden not want Snowden to say bad things about the USA? Well, apparently the wizards behind the curtain told Vladimir Putin, you do what we say or you and your family will be dead or something to that effect. And I have
Sure.
heard from a few people that perhaps Vladimir Putin did have a Valiant Thor type meeting shortly after that thing with Snowden, where some aliens came up to him and said, listen, we know that the powers that be have threatened you, but we're going to try to protect you, so you don't have to be scared out of your minds right now. And it's interesting that Putin seems to be transitioning to maybe a little bit more of an angel ever since then. He's not perfect, but
Right.
Alex Collier even said that he sees Putin as being potentially the first world leader who's willing to expose the ET cover up, if that makes sense. So, do you have
Oh,
anything to say
I
about the
believe.
Russians?
Oh, I freaking totally agree. I think where we are going to learn about actual Herculobus or any of those alien technology, aliens themselves, we are going to hear it out of Russia. They are going to be the ones that are going to disclose. And our relationship with Russia, I mean, I think yeah, they say we're at odds. We're working together big time. China is getting to a point right now where they are becoming the world dominant superpower. However, this COVID-19 has really took that one away from them. So we're going to see the Chinese economy start to dwindle because of COVID over time, because we're not going to take in the exports. We're going to bring everything back to the United States for manufacturing. When Donald Trump said, well, let's make America great again, we have to fix the infrastructure of the United States. We have to really pay attention to our internal process here in the United States and really get our act together here, because I think we need that. This is it. This is the last hurrah for freedom. If we don't take control of our freedom here in the United States, we're going to end up like Russia. We're going to end up like China. We're going to be in this dictatorial type of atmosphere. And when I talked about glory with Donald Trump, he could be that dictator. And I do not think that we are going to have an election this year. I believe that he is going to enact. There's a bill that was signed into law by George Bush, stating, and I don't have the actual number off the top of my head, it's an HR number, but it basically states that during a national emergency, a president can declare that he needs to remain in office due to that national emergency, and he can enact that at any point. And George Bush was the one that signed that executive order, and it has not been rebuked.
And is this W. Bush the idiot or George Herbert Walker Bush the
Oh, I'm sorry,
Illuminati overlord?
W. Bush, the idiot. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I should have.
Don't
I
want to-
should have been more clear on that one. Yes, George Jr.
Okay, and got time for maybe one or two more questions. You mentioned the whole economic status on planet Earth, and I have said quite a few times that when it comes down to it, the reason that history shows that capitalism always works better than socialism is because we live on a planet with money. If money did not exist and if technology was not suppressed, then the best possible way of making a living here on Earth would be a socialist system where money does not exist and technology is not
Sure.
suppressed, so everybody can get everything that they need and then some. Now, Donald Trump apparently plays a role in this because his uncle was one of the people who confiscated Nikola Tesla's technology, which could certainly make something like that possible. And I mean, you did in a conversation I remember having with you back in the day on Facebook, you were willing to tell me this, so I presume you're not going to have a problem with me saying this, that you said, to your knowledge, Donald Trump's father had Freemasonic ties. So, do you have anything else to say about this stuff about Trump's uncle and his father, and possibly him maybe opening the door to technology that could make money obsolete and lead us into a paradise where we don't have to be slaves to a system anymore?
Well, that sounds like the Venus Project to me. It does, doesn't it? It sounds like the Venus Project. I think we are heading into a time of change. That is true. We are heading in a time of change. We could go into, this is what was talked about in Revelations. It was talked about, we would have some sort of chip or some sort of tracking device within each other. Well, we're heading to the point where we are, we have Apple Pay, we have cryptocurrency, we have this, that, we're heading towards that moment in time that, where we can, take our hand and just walk by and, and maybe that, we should create a world where there is no currency, that it's based on merit and, how you are as a person. China's trying to do something similar to that. I think that might work here. It wouldn't be, it would be kind of a socialist. I mean, there's, let me ask you a question. Who do you think is the biggest socialist department in the United States government currently?
The Democrats.
No, which department? Not which federal department?
I don't know what. The military?
Currently, you're close. Yeah, the Veterans Administration.
Okay. Oh yeah, Social Security and all that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's, I mean, the Veterans Administration, us disabled vets, we get, lifetime disability payments. We have free health care. We have all of that because we've served in the military, and these are benefits that we received. But nobody else but us can get into that unless we have a spouse or such, children. That is the thing, that I believe would be a great model for the world for even the United States to work under. I think, we need to have free health care. We need to have some sort of universal income. We need to have people, we need to have our Congress, we need to have our House, we need to have our Senate, we need to have the executive branch working for us and not against us, because that is exactly what's happening. We're getting worked against, and that is not what the forefathers envisioned for this experiment that we call the United States of America.
Yes, and as much as when it comes to finance, Wall Street also is something that can't be allowed to go crazy. I mean, it is a basic human right to gamble. I mean, you can't be free if you don't have the right to gamble, and Wall Street is essentially a rich man's casino, but they've allowed for so much manipulation that it's not doing in our best good. And don't even start on the whole derivatives thing. Nobody understands derivatives other than it's not good for us.
AI. You cannot beat AI. I have done my share of trading over the last 5 years. I have seen the manipulation. I have watched the manipulation. I have an algorithm that I have built over the last 5 years that right now we're heading on the downturn. We're going to be in the downturn at least until 2021, and then we're going to see a spike. And when we do see the spike, it's going to be amazing. But that spike is going to last very quick, because it's going to move right into your 2024, where you're stating that, this is basically the end of the United States as we know it.
Yes, I do hope that it will be a smooth transition, but I mean, the excuse of we can't expose the truth because humans can't handle the truth. I am sick and tired of hearing that being used as an excuse to postpone awakening. Right. I keep saying humanity needs a kick in the pants. Humanity deserves to have the truth rubbed in its face for being apathetic couch potatoes and lazy and not wanting to know because of fearful and paradigmatic attitudes. It's time for a change, and well, that's easier said than done. I'm the kind of guy who can handle the truth, so I can handle saying that, but we'll see how, and you are too. So, well, with that being said, we've reached the hour mark, and people do have lousy attention spans, and doing 2 hour shows
Yeah,
has cost
exactly.
me a potentially big audience, as I've said 100 zillion times on this show, and will keep saying for the sake of giving humanity a kick in the pants to improve their attention spans, so I can get a bigger audience. And with that being said, I did say I'm going to upload all my interviews from this point onward on both YouTube and also the cost.tv channel, which allows for cryptocurrency monetization. And I'm probably going to encourage all my listeners, look, watch my YouTube videos for only 10 seconds just to get a view count up. And then after that 10 seconds, switch immediately to cost.tv to help me make some money. Because cryptocurrency, it's not really good as a medium of exchange because of the router, they say, but at the very least, it would be good to save up, like gold and silver is good for saving up. So, hey, anything to help me make some money after getting demonetized by YouTube would definitely be worth it. So I will upload this interview by midnight tomorrow to YouTube at the absolute latest. I'll send you the link when I do, and you can spread it far and wide to everybody and anybody that you want.
Okay.
It was a pleasure having you on. Very enlightening interview. Good luck to you, and good luck on your quest for truth.
Yeah. And we will talk again. And thank you for the opportunity. And just remember that 32 Degrees of Insanity is going to get rebooted. We don't know when it's going to get rebooted and which platform we're going to do it on, but it is coming and it is in the works.
Awesome. Take care, Donnie. Bye-bye.